Hi, I'm Rainer, and welcome to my training room. And today I'm going to try to build this Walther's Trainline rooming house. It's still in the plastic wrap. I bought this at a train show. Haven't even opened the package. So it's a little house that I'm going to try to build, see how it turns out. I'm going to put it up in my little northern town village scene up there, the area that I just did the scenery base on for in my last video. So let's see how this goes. Just looking at the package, it says, quick and easy to build. Let's see how it is. Complete illustrated instructions. We'll see. Plastic parts molded in color, no painting needed. I generally, although you can build it if you want to keep it easy without painting it, I find that if you want any level of realism with any building, you do want to paint it because the plastic, it just looks plasticky usually. But let's see what this one looks like when we open it. I'm expecting I will be painting it. I haven't actually built one of these Walther's Trainline kits before. I've built a bunch of the other Walther's kits, but not one of the Trainline kits. So let's see how this actually works out and see what it looks like. So for now, I'm going to just open the package and see what we need to do. So first thing, let's cut the plastic off of it. Okay, so we have a bag of parts here, nothing surprising. Okay, so this is interesting. It comes with a molded little base that looks like it kind of has grass and little steps built in. I'm not sure I'm going to use that. We'll see how that works out. It seems like something that would be a little bit tougher to blend into the scenery, but let's see how that looks. So we have some of the walls here. This very thin plastic, I assume, is for the windows. Shingled roof. This looks like chimney, deck boards, window frames, doors. Okay. Walls. Let's pull all of this out of here. Get rid of the bag. Don't need that. And I'm going to just move these boxes off to the side here. So what do we have here? So these two sprues are the wall panels that are supposed to be the wood walls with the brick at the bottom. This is the base. We'll set that aside for now. I probably won't use that because I think it's going to be easier to blend into the scenery without that, and then I'll just have to build steps separately. But we'll see how that works out. Because this base is going to be elevated, and if I put that in, then I'm going to have to blend the scenery up to the top of it. And yeah, I think I can probably make it fit into the scenery without this a little bit better, but we'll see how that works. Yeah, so these are, where's the picture for it? Let's see. So these are obviously the deck boards for the little porch and balcony up to the top. So those are all going to be wood. This is the shingled roof, kind of gray shingle thing, but I'm probably going to repaint that a different color. And these are the walls and the roof for this side addition on it. So I think what I'm going to need to do with all of this is go outside and give it a spray paint of, like I've done with my other model kits, a spray paint of black paint. So definitely these will get a coat of black paint. Some of these windows are already molded in, whereas the rest of the window frames are separate. So that's going to be a little bit interesting because I'll have to then paint these by hand, but that's okay. yeah, so you can tell these kits are a little bit less finicky in their details than some of the other Walther's kits I've built, but not that different overall. But they are going to need a little bit of trimming. So I think what I'm going to do is, for example, on these doors, you can see there's a little bit of flashing sticking out. So I'll need to trim those off before I paint them. But if you look at these, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I can see the light right through these. And if I want to illuminate this house, I can't have the light shining through the doors. You don't want to have glowing doors. You want the light to come through the windows. So these are all going to definitely need a coat of paint. I think I'll probably use, they are green and I'm okay with the green. I may just use my dark green paint that I've used on some of the other windows and just spray paint this sprue with that dark green. That'll block the light enough for that. The rest of this stuff will get a coat of black spray, and then I will hand paint whatever colors I decide to do on them, because yeah, I don't want my walls glowing when I turn the lights on inside, and that's what typically will happen if you use unpainted plastic or if you don't get a good dark base coat. So that's why I like to just paint them flat black, and then we will put a coat of paint on them once the flat black has dried. So that will be the next step I need to do, is go get all of these a spray of paint and let that cure for enough time. So I'll let them dry until later today or tomorrow. We'll see how quickly that paint dries. And then these will get a coat of green spray paint. The boards will have to be painted with whatever color I want. And then, of course, the brick at the bottom will have to be painted a brick color to make it look more realistic. Because if I just put these green windows, the whole house will just look plastic, because it is plastic. And so to cover that plastic, we need to give it a good coat of paint. So yeah. So that will be the first step now. Just go out and give this all a good spray of paint and let it dry, and then we will move on to the next step. So I have everything pre-painted here, and right now I'm going to start installing the door and window frames in the wall sections. And I think what I'm going to do is going to be a little bit different than what I would normally do. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm thinking of actually installing them in the walls, and then doing a little bit of weathering on the walls before I actually install the glass on the back. So I'm hoping I have enough room to sneak them in through the bottom of the house when I do that. Looking at the instructions, there are the shed walls right here, which are these three on this sprue, just kind of wood color, painted them black, and then dry brushed them with some acrylic paint. And then we've got the two side walls, and they've got the back wall and the front wall. But I appear to have enough walls to build a small shed that's not even listed in the instructions here. So this is the instructions, this is the side shed. But there's this extra shed that I don't see anywhere in the instructions. But that's okay. It's always nice to get an extra building. So I'll worry about that later. Do the house first. So right now I'm going to try to get all the windows in. But to get to this point, what I did was I took everything out in the garage, spray painted all black, and then airbrushed the yellow on here and masked out the bottom part of the brick so that it wouldn't get yellow on it. And then brushed on some artist acrylic paint onto the brick once the yellow had dried. And then the roof spray painted black, again dry brushed with some mix of brown and gray acrylic paints to give it a kind of a look of weathered shingles is the idea. The wooden deck and landing and stuff like that, these platforms, again, same idea, painted black, dry brushed some paint on them. And this looks like some sort of metal roofing, I guess. And again, same kind of treatment, painted everything black beforehand, then painted. The only thing I didn't do that with was the door and window frames. They got painted green. I just noticed there's a little clock face here. I wonder where that's supposed to go. But anyway, I'm going to try to get the window and door frames into the walls, and then probably assemble the walls before I put the windows in so I can kind of do some weathering on the whole building, because I don't want it to be this bright yellow. I want it to look like it's an aged building, so we'll see how this goes. So as you can see from that clip, I got the house all built, and here it is in front of me. Changed a few things in the plans of what I was going to do as I started building it, and realized what parts I had and didn't have. So I'll get to that in a little bit, but according to the instructions show you building the main part of the house as it is, and then having this shed attached to the house on this side. It's got a little notch in the cutout there to fit around the chimney, things like that. I decided to not attach the house there, or the shed there. I mean, I can put it beside the house like that if I want to, but for now I don't think I will. I think I'll use it somewhere else on the layout. I need to find a door and windows for it, since, well, I'll explain what happened with the kit once I got going through it. As I just mentioned, once I got the parts painted, there were enough parts to build this little shed. So it looked like, from everything I could tell, I had an option of putting the windows and the door in this shed or in that. So I ended up building this shed because it was a cute little shed and it actually worked out pretty well. Unlike the last few kits that I've produce videos on, in this kit, the window frames go in from the outside of the wall, not on the inside. So in a bunch of these other kits I've done, the window frames go on the inside, and so you just put the wall face down, put the window frames in, you can glue them in. This one, it's the other way around, so make sure if you're doing a bunch of these other ones, you think about that. It's pretty obvious. The windows fit in from the outside, and then you have to put the glue on the inside. The windows fit fairly well overall, but I can tell that this is a lower production quality kit because some of the moldings had a little bit of extra flash and stuff like that, or they didn't come out of the molds cleanly, so I had to do a little bit of trimming on the windows on some of them to get them to fit properly, but overall not too bad. So I glued all the windows and the doors into the wall sections and then began assembling the walls. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, once I had looked at all the parts, I didn't end up using the base. I was thinking of maybe using the base as an assembly guide, but it really didn't work that way. So I ended up not using the base at all and just gluing the walls together. And again, I guess this is one of those situations where you can tell the quality of the kit, the bevels and the edge where the corners fit weren't quite as tight as it might be on some of the nicer quality, the Walther's Cornerstone kits or the Keybury kits that I've built. So it ended up tending to want to leave a little bit more of a gap in the corners. I just squeezed them as tightly as I could. And then most of the gap is hidden by the fact that I went and painted the corners after the fact, just using a paint pen, a green paint pen, to cover the corners. But overall, it wasn't terribly difficult to assemble. The only thing is the walls are a little bit thinner and flimsier, so it took a little bit of struggling, I guess it is, to keep them all nice and lined up to get them glued in. But once I got them glued in, it turned out just fine. Actually, to be honest, when I was assembling it, I was a little bit frustrated with it, but I'm really happy with how it turned out at the end. And it's actually not a bad kit at all. Just be prepared that some things don't fit as perfectly as they might on some of the higher end kits. I had to do a little bit of trimming. Basic assembly wasn't too difficult. Glue the four walls together, let that set for a little while. Glue the roof on, and again, the flanges on the roof don't quite line up as tightly as I would have liked to, but again, just being careful with it. It turned out pretty well. I mean, the seam at the top of the roof turned out pretty tight and everything else once I got it in place, but it was just took a little bit of fighting to get it in. The other thing, make sure you test fit things before you glue them. I had glued the two halves of the chimney together, painted the chimney. When I went to fit the chimney in, I test fit it first, and when I was test fitting it, I noticed that it was a little too tight to fit into the openings in the roof, so I actually had to shave a little bit off both sides of the roof opening to fit the chimney in. Once I got that in, fit in okay and looked great. But again, one of those little things where you need to do a little bit of cleaning things up, or just trimming them a little bit to fit them in. The front decks, I painted everything beforehand. Again, it all goes together pretty well, but there are not a lot of like locating pins for anything. So these posts, there's no real markings of where they line up. So what I did was I attached the bottom posts to the deck, glued it in place, glued the two together, and then put in the deck on the posts and just put a dab of glue on the corners, and that fit pretty well. For the canopy at the top, what I actually did in that situation was I put the framing in first so I can get it lined up with the bottom, and then put the canopy in, glued it to the wall, put it in place, and then lift the roof just a little bit to get the glue into the front. So that seemed to work out okay. The stairs, if you just follow the instructions, they come as a straight unit, and they have a little bit of a groove in the back where you have to bend it to fit the stairs in place, and the same thing with this roof. They fit on okay. The one thing to notice with the stairs is that the stair railing goes onto the side of the stairs and not on top of the steps. I initially tried to set it on top and it didn't fit very well. Anyway, it worked out once I figured out what needed to be done. It was okay. And then these last two support posts, I put those in last once I had everything else in place, just kind of held it in and slid them in. So following the instructions, it's not too bad. These instructions are pretty good. I mean, they just show you little drawings, and if you built models, you just follow them and put them together. Now, once I got through it, I realized that once I had the house built, I had, I think, 3 windows. One was different than the other 2, and a door left. And I had this building, which was supposed to go on the side here. But then I had all the parts for this. And again, this is very simple. 4 walls, 2 roof pieces, and a little chimney. And again, I had to trim this hole to get the chimney slide in. I slid it in from the bottom, but the top and the bottom were a little bit too tight, so the chimney was sticking out at an angle. To get it nice and vertical, I had to do a little bit of trimming on the holes. So again, something to be aware of if you decide to build this part with the chimney. There were no instructions for this at all, but it's pretty straightforward. So I put this together, and it's got this extra piece of decking. So I thought, they kind of sit nicely like that. This part, if I can find a couple more windows and a door, because there was only one door and a couple of windows left, and I could put them in here or put them in there, so I decided to put it in there. Once I had it all assembled, I did a little bit of weathering. I used some old Floquil weathering paints that I had, so I had some Floquil dust weathering paints, and I just kind of put a wash of that just with a brush kind of unevenly on the roof, on all the roof panels, and I also did a little bit on the side walls, just kind of tilted it and put a little dusting of it on there just to make it look not quite as clean and fresh yellow. And then I also had a little bit of Floquil grime paint that I kind of put a wash on these walls. I didn't go all the way around too crazy, because I know the way I set it on my layout, I'm going to have this wall and this wall showing out toward the front, because they're the most interesting with all of this structure. So anyway, I'm very happy with how it turned out. But if you are building one of these kits and you're used to building some of the higher end kits, there are things that don't necessarily fit perfectly the first time around. Just test fit everything before you glue it in place. And overall, the end result is quite nice in my opinion. I think it's a nice little house. I still didn't put the acetate window sheeting on the inside. I think I'm going to wait to do that once I start wiring. I'm going to put some interior lighting in this house. I haven't done that yet. So I'm going to run some interior lighting in and then put some clear sheet on the inside of the windows, or I may actually try to find something that's a little bit more opaque so that I can put lights on that you don't see right into the building. It just looks illuminated. So not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I'll try to come up with something for that. But at this point, I think it's a nice little house. This whole entryway with the stairs and the upper deck and everything is kind of a nice look, and kind of a nice sort of rustic look, and I think it'll go well in my village scene up there. So very happy with it. And I do have another 1 or 2 of the Walther's Trainline houses to build, so I'll see how those go down the road. But yeah, I am happy with the house, how the house turned out so far. And if you guys have any questions about it, please put them in the comments. And if you want to see more of what I'm doing on here, please subscribe so you don't miss them. And I will be figuring out what I'm doing next in here. I have a couple of other projects that I really want to get done. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my window area up there, because I just wanted a little bit more of a backdrop without completely blocking the window. So I have some ideas. I may come up with something for that. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.